Hi everyone, today I'm going to do my wrap of New York Fashion Week. I'm going to talk about some of the shows that I attended and then some of the shows that I didn't attend and give brief overviews on the collections and some insight and behind the scenes information you can only get from somebody who shows up and sits back row. I cannot believe I forgot to say this. Before Fashion Week, I got horribly ill. I got horrible food poisoning. I was ill from, I would say, 3 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night the day before the Sandy Liang show. I was horribly ill. I was fatigued. I couldn't get up. I couldn't walk. God only knows. It was horrible. I didn't think I was going to be able to attend shows, actually. I thought I was going to have to sit it out and not go to Fashion Week this season because I was so ill and I was so fatigued attending Sandy Liang. I completely forgot that I was so fatigued. I was so sick. I couldn't wait to get home. I still had the chills and the shakes at that show. So right before Fashion Week started, I got invited to the Coach headquarters for a top secret business with Corinne and Tori from High Fashion Twitter. Then I pumped it over to Dover Street Market because my vintage Prada purse is still broken and I'm in between deciding repairs or a new leather bag. I'm sure you can guess what I did. I'm going to get the bag repaired and I didn't buy anything, but it was nice to take a stroll around Dover Street and see what was in there. They still had some of the Vaquera teddy bears, which I was really excited about. There were some really cool pieces from Comme des Garçons. They replaced the fragrances at Comme des Garçons. Oh yeah, they did a stock the other day. I tried to go visit right before Fashion Week to shop for Fashion Week and they didn't let me in because they were like, so sorry, this is the one day that we're restocking the entire floor. I was like, fabulous. So I didn't have a bag. I had to get one from the thrift store for $6. It broke on my way over to the show, but I needed a bigger bag to fit water because I actually got food poisoning, horrible food poisoning. I was very sick right before Fashion Week, so I was sick on the way over to my first runway show, but this is where it was. It's quite far from my house, so I was a little bit worried. But I ended up making it into the show just fine, attending, and I was seated, so thankfully I could enjoy the show. All right, so the first event that I had for Fashion Week was the Sandy Liang runway show, and it was set in the New York Academy of Medicine on 103rd Street. I'm literally just now remembering, before the runway show, just backstory that's not super relevant, and I don't vlog anymore, so I guess this can count as a little vlog. Before the runway show, I was in 7-Eleven trying to get warm because it was kind of cold outside, and I had been in that part of town for a while, just walking around, and I was getting a little chilly. There's nowhere to sit in the Dunkin' Donuts, so I go into 7-Eleven to get a little warm, and they hold up the store and start it, and they cleared out the entire rest of the store except for me because I'm so obtuse. I wasn't understanding that these two men kept coming up to me to try to encourage me to leave the store because they were about to hold it up and it. But they did. The employee ran after them after they left and went down the street. It was really weird, but I was like, the show must go on, and I just walked to Sandy Liang and I met up with Violet. And it was really cool to see her, and I know that she's a customer of Sandy Liang, and she's also a very experienced luxury customer and works in luxury fashion as well. So it was really cool to see her, and I want to get her show notes about how she experienced the show and what she felt about the clothes and the presentation, because she is very experienced with luxury garments, and I think she has the skill to identify quality and the aesthetic value of these clothes, so I thought that was really cool. So before the show, I filmed some clips of what it felt like just because I wanted to get the ambiance. And it did remind me of last season, which I attended in person as well, which was set in an auditorium, which felt like after school vibes, which is an environment that I feel like Sandy Liang has been creating over the past several seasons. This kind of academic reclamation of girlhood that I talked about on TikTok app. And I think that she did that and asserted that really effectively again this season. I liked the rosettes, the scrunchies, and the ribbons in the model's hair because I felt like it was an aspirational show in terms of the environment that they created with the attendees, but also it felt very universal in signaling and communicating girlhood. They are universal experiences of having those little rosettes on your garments, your pajamas, undergarments, etc. And then, you know, repurposing them for current context. What I said on TikTok was that it is this kind of fantastical way of constructing girlhood and then applying that to this urban city life. And I like that. I loved seeing the ballet slippers again this season. I just thought it was really fun. It was practical and wearable, but also fantastical, and it also wasn't overdone, which I think is really important. But I do think it would be really exciting to see Sandy Liang communicate a stronger, more distinct brand vision, because this collection was compared to Chou Chou Tang, Comme des Garçons, Simone Rocha, and similar brands, and I think it would be really cool to have their strength. After the show, and after the I got on the train and I was next to one of the models in the runway show, and some of the editors were asking to take pictures of the back of her hair because there were ribbons all throughout it, which I thought was really cool. I also loved at Sandy Liang that there was a model that I felt looked like me just on the basis that they have red hair. Like, I saw Vivian and Aisha, and that was really cool because they're also Sandy Liang girlies, customers of the brand. They have a lot of experience with the products at Sandy Liang. They were at the last show and at the events, and they're also just really, really cool, beautiful, nice people, and I love the way that they construct their personal styles as well. But it was really cool to see them because I was like, oh, actual customers of the brand who are really engaged in it and communicate what I think is the brand's identity at the shows. I was like, great. And I had to snap a picture of them on my digital camera. I wish I would have gotten more. I was just being shy because they're so cool. I didn't want to be like bothering them, but they just it was really, really cool to see that. Okay, next, let's move on. The next show that I attended was the Eckhaus Latta show, which is my most favorite show that I attended and captured. Felt like a queer nightlife environment. There was a lot of LGBT energy, aesthetics, identities in the room, and I really, really liked that. I was not expecting that. I didn't know if the show this season would be outdoors during the daytime or what, but the nighttime environment, feeling like the nightlife environment, really pushed the show over the edge. I'm getting an idea of what the set is. It was this very dark, moody, kind of sexy, sultry environment, and I really liked that setting for them to contextualize the clothes, because I wasn't really sure. Also, before the Eckhaus Latta show started, it was very family oriented. It felt very community and family oriented. It was really cool. It felt very intimate and sexual. Nightclub environment. I said a very queer environment, queer coded. I love the consistency of their casting. That was also a relief, as were the selections. The person standing next to me, thankfully, the luck of the Irish, told me that I could sit up on this ledge that was above the radiator. So not only was I being warmed during the show, but I was seated during the show, and I was above everyone, so that if anybody taller than me stood in front of me, or if the people seated around me were kind of obscuring my line of sight, I was all set and ready to go, because instead I was higher than everybody in the show, higher than everybody seated at the show, so I had a really, really good line of sight for my digital camera, which I filmed the show on, and I was seated, so I was comfortable. So that was a really, really fortunate outcome of the show. I filmed the final catwalk, and Eckhaus Latta liked it, and a lot of people liked it on social media, and I think it's because it captures kind of the ambience that it felt like they were trying to create. I wish I would have gotten a more steady shot, but from where I was sat, where I was sat, and with my personal sensibilities, I tried to capture the show to the best of my ability through that lens, and I was really happy that I was able to. It's my favorite video from Fashion Week that I've ever captured. I just feel like it reflected exactly what they were trying to communicate, this kind of like nightlife, underground. The music was also incredible. I'm gonna try to include it, and I think I have some of the soundscape from Sandy Liang as well. but I hope I have a recording of the music. It was so good. The DJing was incredible. It was just such a familiar environment. I said the audience made it extremely cool. They weren't uptight. It was very genuine, very community oriented. It felt like outcasts who found a home in fashion, which is how I feel about Eckhaus Latta as a brand. I love Eckhaus Latta. It's one of my favorite brands. Literally a shirt from Eckhaus Latta inches away from me as we speak. Love Eckhaus Latta, loved the show. I thought it was fabulous. The clothes looked great, and I felt like they were framed really strategically and beautifully at that show. They have a massive strength in maintaining their brand identity and house codes without becoming stale, and they create a sense of intimacy in their work. Instead of it feeling repetitive and stale, which I do feel a lot of 2010s brands in a similar vein to them fell into the trap of, I think seeing like the lap tee and some of the other Eckhaus Latta styles feels really, really good. It does not feel like, oh my god, this again. I was excited for it. I was looking for it. I was looking for some of the cutout styles, the knits. I was looking for the really big platform, weird, kind of chunky granola girl who's sexy at a party shoes, and I saw those, and it was really, really, I was quite happy and pleased with Eckhaus Latta, and I'm much happier with my documentation on my digital camera than I am on the phone. Like, that's why I'm like, thank God that I brought it. Okay. The next show that I went to during Fashion Week was the Coach Runway show. Okay, this is something I was talking about on live. I attended the Coach Runway show. I was sat next to Mutual Muse Corinne, and this is something I was trying to say on TikTok live, and apparently somebody said that Coach came into the live room while I was talking about this. The environment that they created is not something that is displayed through the runway show images. It was very intimate. This is the same place that they showed last season when I attended with Lee, but when I attended this season, it was so much more intimate. There was only, as far as I know, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was only front row. So we were all sat front row. There were way fewer people this season that were invited. Our names were on the chairs at the show. Like, my first and last name was on the chair at the show. We were served hot toddies at the show. Like, there were people dressed in head to toe Coach. Those people were styled really well as well. And it felt very intimate the way that the Coach events feel intimate. But I felt like a sense of romance, like being served and catered to, and the lighting in the spot was very warm and intimate as well. And some of the floral arrangements as well indicated to me like some sense of romance. I was wearing Helmut Lang, Rick Owens, and Maruski Peach, looking kind of like goth. But I had to be me, you know, I had to be me. I think that the show was an improvement upon the last season's collection. I think some of their strengths were the sneakers and shoes, the romantic dresses that looked like they were from an early 2000s or late 90s rom-com, the patchworked leather that a lot of people appreciated last season, which I have read was made of scrap fabric. Coach, which is a major show, did cast diversely and inclusively compared to the shows that people are talking about. I did like the shoes. Oh, Alaska Riley, online girly, posted a picture of her wide leg pants with the Coach monogram shoes in these bright pops of color, and I cannot believe I didn't notice them when I was at the show. I only noticed them when she posted on social media. That should have been the focus, because those are like a major standout. So stylish, so cool. I just think the styling could be a little bit more contemporary, and that being like one of the central focal points would have been amazing. I'm trying to see if I can capture it. I tried to capture some videos of the sneakers because I thought that they looked different this season. Maybe they were slightly tweaked, maybe they're identical, but they looked better this season. I remember last season being like, they need to work on those. And the same with the boots this season. I want them to like elevate them and either make them tougher or make them more saccharine sweet. But those monogram heels slayed. I was really happy with it. And I'm happy for them improving and working on the direction that they're trying to go in. Okay, the next show that I attended was actually Head of State. I was very, very excited to see what work would come of this show. Just a moment. Okay, so this is the card that was on our seats at Head of State. The collection summary says, in the early 2000s, my father, Nareni Abijako, embarked on a journey from Lagos, Nigeria to Spain. His plan involved crossing a desert and illegally sailing on a boat across in search of a better future in the West. Along his journey, he began having vivid dreams of home. He dreamt about his family, the air back home, the textures, conversations, architecture. His mind was filled with every symbol that defined home for him. Because of these memories of homes, he decided to end his journey in Libya. He turned back, following the current of his dreams. A month after returning home, he won an American visa lottery. Each look from the show is a physical interpretation of the memories of home my father had as he journeyed further and further from Lagos. Specific reference is made to Lagos's unique architectural texture, social nuances, and landmarks. My father's journey, both away from his home and back, retraced and foreshadowed the journey that many refugees and displaced people and marginalized communities have made, are making, and will make this century. As the refugee crisis grows, it becomes more and more important to reflect on our memories of home and how what we remember will shape what is to come. It was phenomenal. Phenomenal runway show. All of this was communicated. I was so happy to be able to capture it on my digital camera because it did feel like the feeling of trying to capture memories, which I do think the grainier quality of the digital camera conveys. It felt like memories. It felt like trying to communicate memories. The music was beautiful. Hopefully I can include some clips of the music. The music was beautiful. It just felt like somebody trying to communicate about distant memories of home and traveling, and it was just so beautiful, and one of the most anticipated shows that I went to. People were very on edge and excited to be able to attend because I think people knew that it would be deep storytelling, which is what I anticipated before the show, and I told Tiana unwarranted. They were like, I was like, it's gonna be storytelling. They're like, okay, like nobody asked. That's how I am. But yeah, I could see references to architecture. I could see references to memory, and also I could see some of the consistent expressions and codes that they have communicated at the previous head of state presentations, like the cutouts and round shapes in some of the pants and things like that. It was a beautiful performance. As I walked into the show, I saw what looked like a shower, and I knew that it would be a performance that kind of reminded me of the Hussein Chalain runway show, where the models are standing under rainwater or like water that's pouring and showering down on them, and their clothes disintegrate, and then they walk the runway in two different looks. So one look, they get rained on, a second look, and then they walk off. I knew that it was going to be something like that, and it was. In general, I just thought it was a really, really beautiful, phenomenal show. I think the colors were beautiful. I think that there's a great target audience for some of these pieces. I thought it was interesting to see kind of some of the interpretations of gender and masculinity, identity. The clothes were sexy. I thought that they were cool. I thought that they were artful. I thought that they were conceptual, but also practical. He says, I looked at what my friends are wearing here in New York and what I was wearing as a kid back home. When you find a middle ground in the language, when you find a middle ground in the clothing, it becomes a new language. That was definitely apparent. I appreciated the final moments of the runway when his entire family came and hugged him. Oh my God, everybody wanted to cry. It was so beautiful. People were cheering so loud. It felt like home, and it felt like someone communicating about their home and telling story about their home or someone's home, and I thought that was beautiful. A lot of people have talked about, which I'll talk about later, like the fact that New York Fashion Week is not centered on these like historic legend giants in the New York fashion scene anymore, and it's kind of moved into these newer independent brands. I think that that's important, but it's also something that happened in the 2010s with, like I said before, the Eckhaus Latta, Moses Gauntlet Chang industrial complex, and we see what was the outcome of that in fashion. It was amazing. So I'm glad to have another renaissance of new and fresh talent in New York be the central focus. So the day of the head of state runway show, I think in the middle of the day, I surprisingly got invited to the House of Aama runway show last minute. The email literally says, tomorrow you're going to this show if you RSVP. So I RSVP'd, but I didn't hear back, so I wasn't sure if I was going to get in, but I was like, if I can just be near or see the kind of people that are invited, I still can get a vibe of the show. And I had actually been researching that brand a month or two ago intensely so that I could work to learn about its impact, because I just thought that that one dress that everybody sees all the time, I was like, it's so sexy, it's so beautiful, and every hot girl has that dress, which means that there's something deeper to this brand. It's not like people are just gravitating to it because it's cute. And I knew that there were very intelligent, fashion interested people who are also interested in art, and I was like, there's a pattern and theme with the kind of customer that they're reaching, so I should check into it. So I did. Okay, so then I get to House of Aama and I'm second in line, which I always come early to runway shows, which makes sense because I don't have a conventional job. I do freelancing, so I don't have any reason to be late. I don't miss shows. And also because I was traumatized by the Bling Empire New York episode where she misses the Chanel show, even though she was sat front row, and she's been working and working to be sat at these shows, and then she missed the show and she's in the car crying, which I joked with Violet about. But yeah, I was second in line. Once I got in to the show, I took so many pictures of the set design because I think it made them stand out a ton. And this is also another reason why I'm beyond grateful to have the privilege of attending runway shows, because it creates a completely different relationship with the brand identity, what they're trying to communicate in the runway show, to be present at the show, to feel the energy, to see the kind of people who are invited and why, to see where they chose to direct the energy for the show and why. It helps you understand the brand's storytelling. And that's why I do think it is important for editors and journalists and people who can write about and disseminate information to a broad audience about the shows to be invited, and not just influencers, because that's what they're going to communicate and capture. That is what they have the intention of sharing with the public sometimes. And it's important.
I don't know. Recording. Yeah.
Like I said, sorry, I attended and I took so many pictures of the set design and so many videos of the set design, and it just reminded me of like 2010 blogging era, where there was this like 1990s-esque and 1980s-esque Afrocentrism. Like, this set design felt very black and very cool and very contemporary. I loved the color blocking and bright neon patterns. I just thought it was a very well-rounded show, and I loved what they communicated. The music at this show was the best objectively. The reactions from the people attending were also very great. I loved the bedazzled denim jacket because it did feel reminiscent of a past era, but also super modern and almost futuristic in reviving and choosing to revive that kind of an aesthetic. The jacket that Anzi Desabe walks in, I gasped at the construction of the garment and how beautiful it was, to the point that I didn't even notice who was walking in it. I looked at it and I was like this, oh my gosh. And so I put my camera up and I'm zooming in trying to get the jacket, not even knowing it's Anzi, until she's this close to me walking, and I'm like, wait, that's Anzi. And I was just so thrilled to see her just. Okay, this is another reason why it's really important, or why I'm very thankful to have the fortune to be invited to runway shows like this. The way that the models walked on the runway, even though the end of runway photos communicate this vibrance and energy, it is so different to watch them saunter sexily up the runway, pose, almost dance, feel the energy of the room, and share that in like this performance that the models were all doing. They were also cascading very, very, very slowly. They walked very slowly. It's something you can't really pick up on unless you're there. That's why I'm so thankful to have been invited. Again, it really helps me understand the vision of the brand. They're also walking on these tiny, skinny stiletto heels. Love that. Not maybe in a detail I would have paid attention to, but all of this created the ambiance, the music, the energy, the livelihood, the models sauntering sexily, them stopping at the end of the runway, posing, kind of almost performing in this very sensual, seductive way, and then turning the runway and walking back, sauntering slowly. It was just phenomenal, and it was really, really good to see in person. I loved the clothing. I felt like they were beyond practical. I feel like these were standout show pieces, each of them, which is part of also why I like seeing the clothes in person in the environment that they're set in, because it feels very black in that they're show pieces. These feel like clothes that you could wear to a party, to an event, and stand out in, which I think is a huge aspect of like black global cultures. Like, I don't want to say dandyism, but it did feel very like I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I'll look it up. It's like the pageantry of blackness, where you can wear something and people are like, you look sharp. And it's like, yeah, that's a huge part of our cultures, and it was good to see that globally. I also think there was a collaboration with the pink looks, the mesh pink looks. I have to look into it, but I remember reading that they did some collaboration. So I just thought it was a great show, and I was very thankful to attend. The last show, actually, that I got invited to was Helena Eisenhart, and it was very reflective of my interests. The color palette is my color palette. I know that Helena Eisenhart does sometimes do these like one-off designs that are working towards sustainability and reworks pieces in order to create some of their work. So I loved seeing that and being present for the show. I thought the styling was immaculate. I loved the bags and accessories at the show and the way that they worked well with the clothing. I loved the set design. I thought it was really intelligent and like I said, experimental. There was a printer that was printing out as the models walked Helena Eisenhart's name on a piece of paper, like their logo, which was really cool. So they would just walk and it would just automatically print, and then they would walk and it would automatically print. And I just thought that that was really good. And it turns out that I actually followed the person who did the set design, which was really great. I think everybody liked it. It also looks like how I wanted my loft to look in the way that they set it up. I wanted white walls with white floors and shiny white floors. And so I was just really happy to be there because I was like, oh, I feel more at home than ever. This is the runway show where someone asked me to take a picture of them, and I thought that they wanted a picture of me, and it was really awkward and embarrassing. But yeah, that was New York Fashion Week for me. Hopefully I've included as many videos as I possibly could. These clothes this season were really punchy, and beyond wearable, they were like intelligent. I think they were smart, and I think that they were practical, and I think that all of the designs that I saw could contribute to working towards sustainability in terms of styling, because they're not so trendy that they are caught in one time period or another, regardless of the styling. I think that they are practical, and I think that that is like the intelligence of the New York City design style, which I really liked. I was quite impressed with the looks. London Fashion Week, slaying. I'm really proud of the work that they're doing there. I think it's a bit more turned up in terms of volume and experimentation because they have a completely different context of designers. But I love New York Fashion Week. I was happy that I was able to be invited and go to attend the shows. It was more than an honor. I look forward to it next season if they'll have me. If not, it was a great ride, and I'm so happy about it. And I really liked the shows. So that was my New York Fashion Week. Those were my videos. I've been waiting to share these videos and like this commentary. If I forgot anything, I'll voice over it. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for everything and how you've contributed to my life and allowed me to be invited to shows at Fashion Week and to talk about these things and ask for commentary and things like that.